today's show, GT Omega Racing Rig, triple screens on a budget, and Need for Speed World. This show is sponsored by Sim Raceway. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Jessica Lopez.
And I'm Tom Hackey.
And this is episode 77. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Last time he was on, he was talking WRC.
Oh yes, with Flavio Paglianti.
Great job on that, by the way.
Thank you.
And now he's back, and we're talking some Need for Speed World by EA. And the Need for Speed franchise has been around for a long time, and this is their latest release.
Yes.
It's downloadable for free.
It's a PC only arcade racer, no doubt. MMO, so massively multiplayer.
And you can also, they have a starter pack you can purchase for $20.
Yes.
Which gives you 8,000.
8,000 boost. Their in-game currency is boost.
And an exclusive Mazda 3, which
Yes.
is, you have a Mazda here as well.
Yeah, you do get a Mazda 3 in the free version, so I'm not sure how those differ.
How they differ. And it also, the starter pack also comes with over 40 additional
40 levels, yeah. You can level up farther than you can in the free version.
So let's talk about your version, which was the free version, downloaded straight from the website. You started off here with your Mazda. You chose the Mazda. How many different car options did you have?
There were 5 or 6 car options in the beginning, and I chose Mazda 3 based on stats. They seemed to be the best combo of acceleration, handling, and top speed.
You were allowed to customize your vehicle for free?
Yeah, you can have some stickers on there. You put those on the vehicle, and it makes it look cool.
All right, so once you customize your car, you start racing.
That's right.
Let's talk about the race a little bit. I know that there's pursuit. You can do the pursuit with the cops in here.
There's a pursuit mode. So as you can see, you spawn into the world, and there's players all around you. And in the open world mode, you cannot actually intersect other players. You actually drive straight through them.
So the purpose is just to explore the game.
That's right. That's right. Explore the open world. And then there are little beacons like this that you see, and those actually let you enter races. So once you enter the race, then you can interact with the people around you, and the world actually then goes closed, which is interesting. Instead of having beacons that you need to stick with, you actually get these rails that you cannot.
All right, so once you're involved in a race, you're limited to where you can drive throughout the world.
Yeah.
All right, so if you win the race, what do you earn for winning the race?
What do you earn? You earn cash, not boost, cash. So there's 2 separate in-game currencies. The boost you actually have to purchase, the cash you can earn in the game, and you also earn power-ups. So these are the power-ups that I can play at any time. I've got a nitrous power-up, so it's like a boost that you can...
Okay, so the cash you earn is to be used for...
Mostly decorations. Decorations and upgrades. You can upgrade your vehicle's stats, not very specifically. At level 5, for instance, you earn an upgrade that brings you up a certain amount, but it brings everybody up a certain amount. You can't choose transmission model or engine or turbo or something. You can't break it down like that. It's like, oh, okay, at level 5 you get this, and that's it. So everybody's kind of at the same level.
I see.
Based on
all right, so the boost that you can purchase will allow you to upgrade your vehicle and to purchase new things.
And to purchase new vehicles and better vehicles. Yes, there are much more fun and snazzy vehicles that you can rent for 3 days at a time with boost.
So technically, this game isn't for free then?
That's correct. No,
unless
it's
you
not.
want to stay at the same level.
Right, and you will level up. It just takes quite a while to do it without, getting the better cars and going faster and stuff like that. So, I mean, they've got to earn money somehow. So that's how they've decided to do it. They release the game for free, and then if you want the cool stuff, you got to pay for it.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the world. How many different tracks are available? Where can you go? I mean, here it looks like you're somewhere in downtown.
Yeah, I'm in a downtown setting. Well, this is the world map, and there's obviously quite a bit of space, and there are more areas that I haven't unlocked yet, but it's very expansive. You can go into a lot of places.
Okay, I did want to mention that as we were talking, you let go of the keyboard, and the vehicle just kind of, it crashed a little bit here and there, but it just kind of went back onto the road on its own. Let's talk a little bit about the controls. Like, first off, I see you're using a keyboard over a joystick or
a wheel.
Now,
both the joystick and the wheel work, but keyboard gives you the distinct advantage. You can steer lock to lock much faster, and you can avoid things like cars. I plugged it in my G25, worked instantly, but very slow on the steering and no force feedback. So really no advantage to the wheel. And also, you can't lose control of the car. So there's no point in having the precision control of the wheel if you can't lose control. I can push the throttle down all day and just turn in one direction and it'll go. It's not going to lose control of itself. It's not going to skid.
There doesn't seem to be very much damage in this game.
There's not. There's visual damage, but no physical damage that affects the way the car drives.
Okay, so before we put this title onto our rev scale, some pros and cons of the game. Let's start with the pros.
All right. Pros. I love painting the cars, designing the cars. They have a lot of extensive graphic design options. You can skew and stretch and move and do all sorts of stuff to stickers. It's very cool. Different finishes on the paint, different stuff like that. Awesome. I love the power-up console. You can choose different power-ups for different modes. Like there, I just went into a pursuit mode because I hit a cop. You can choose, these will change as I go into pursuit mode to things that are better suited for pursuit. So the power-up console, very, very cool. What else? Let's see. I love massively multiplayer. I love online racing games. Very, very cool that you can connect with people from all around the world. Amazing. Cons. A big, huge, massive, glaring con for me is that this car will never lose control. I can steer it as hard as I want in any direction with full throttle applied and it won't lose control. So there's no challenge anymore to the driving. You're just steering places, and that I don't like that you're no longer racing people. You're just driving somewhere and maybe you find the right shortcuts and you happen to win. I don't like the fact that it's not open world when you go to a race. During the race, it goes to a closed world, closed circuit. That's sort of not the spirit of it. Something like a midnight club, would blow this out of the water, and it's more fun. And I don't like the fact that the money that I earn in the game can't be used to buy stuff that I want, like cooler cars.
Yeah.
You can't do that. I mean, I understand that they have to make money somewhere, but I'd almost rather pay $60 for the game and get cooler cars than drive around,
constantly upgrade and purchase
and rent cars for 3 days at a time like that. I just don't like that. So.
All right, so time to put it on our 1 to 10 rev scale, and I'm gonna let you go ahead and do the honors and rate this title.
I would honestly, I would put this at a 4. It's an arcade racer, so I'm less inclined to like it from the sim racing games, and it's not one that's a whole lot of fun for me. I love a split second. I love a burnout. Something like that's very fun and it's challenging, but this just doesn't have that in there for me.
Okay, so Need for Speed World gets a 4 on our rev scale, and I'd like to thank you, Tommy, for joining me on this segment.
No problem.
Next up, I'll be back with Darren, but first, our top sim car segment, and we're going to find out whether this next car is going to make it onto the top sim car list or
bump time.
Get bumped out.
Yep.
All right, so here you go. Top sim cars, sponsored by simraceway.com.
Home of online racing.
Okay, here we are for top simulation cars of all time, and doing something a little bit different this time. We had mentioned, running some hot laps at some of these because, we always get asked what kind of lap times we were running. And so we decided to do a hot lap with a top sim car at a top sim track.
Right.
How does that sound?
That sounds good. So we actually picked our 6th top sim car, which we actually, was only a few episodes ago. It was the Bathhurst Legends car.
That's
by
right.
Os Modders. We did the Ford Falcon, which one of my favorite mods of all time, but that mod actually had 3 cars total, the Dodge Charger and the Holden.
Now, I don't think it's the Dodge.
Chrysler.
In America, it's the Dodge Charger. We were misquoted as that. I think it's the Chrysler Charger. It's a Charger,
right?
But I think it's the Chrysler Charger in Australia.
Okay, and then also the Holden Tirana. Is that right, Tirana?
Yep, that's right.
And so 3 great cars to choose from, and we just immediately started battling with them to see what we thought was the faster of the 3.
That's right. And the track we chose, if you didn't guess, Eastern Creek, which we run, Eastern Creek Raceway to be exact, which we run all the time in testing.
All the time. Get asked all the time too, but Eastern Creek, that's our test track.
That's right, and it's located right outside Sydney, Australia. And one of the reasons, people ask, why do you guys pick that track? It's so ugly. And one of the reasons we pick it is, first of all, it's one of the only laser scan tracks in our factory.
Right.
And a little bit about that. done by a guy named Brendan Pywell. Actually, there's a bunch of guys that really worked on that mod, but he was the one that, or that track, I should say. He's the one that was the main guy behind it.
Yeah. Using Bob's Track Builder.
A modified version of Bob's Track Builder to account for, the point cloud data and all that good stuff for laser scanning.
So big collaborative effort.
And we also picked it because it's ugly as hell. No, seriously. You know what? It actually reminds us a lot of our local track called Willow Springs. So if any of you in Southern California know, I'm sure you're familiar with Willow Springs.
A track in the middle of the desert. No trees. A couple of little low-lying bushes.
Here's the funny thing about it. Willow Springs is available for R Factor.
Right.
Which is our track that we just mentioned. Not as good as this Eastern Creek.
No, it's a much better track. The other thing that I like about this track and why it's one of my favorites for testing is it has a lot of unique sections. So it has places that unbalance the car well.
Yeah.
And when we're testing cars, that's the kind of stuff you want to see. How does it react under funny braking and things like that?
Long straightaway with a fast turn at the end of that straightaway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit of everything, and it's lots of bumps. Actually, this is something I read about this track. That track's not that bumpy.
Right.
As bumpy as as Brendan's got it here.
Right.
He mentioned in the comments at R Factor Central. Speaking of which, actually, that's another thing about these. You can get all this stuff at R Factor Central, one-click installable, both the mod and the track, and a little bit more about that. We're going to have all the links to this up at our site, but a little bit more about that at the end. But anyway, in the comments at R Factor Central, somebody had asked Brendan, "Hey, this track's a little bumpier, it seems, than the real life one," and Brendan said, "Yeah." He didn't use a really top-end laser scanner, and that if he could, he'd like to go back and do it again.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so it is a little bumpier in the virtual version than in real life, but I like all the bumps, man. It really has a lot of personality to it.
Especially the final corner. It's very tricky.
And that final corner is like whoop-de-doos.
And it's so important because getting a good run out of there is a very long straightaway. So dealing with those bumps makes it a very fun lap each time.
I think one of the other reasons why we enjoy it is because it really shows off the suspension in the mods. The real feel or force feedback settings, it really tells you how much that's working, so that's another reason why we like it.
To be honest, I could use slightly better cameras for recording footage for Top Sim Car.
Yeah, and that front straight, if anybody wants to make us some new cameras for that track, that'd be awesome. A few other things about Eastern Creek, it's being raced today. I mean, there's an endurance race that they're talking about, 8-hour endurance race, the first ever at Eastern Creek.
Right.
If anybody's looking for a driver out there for that race, Sean and I would love to drive one of your cars.
Absolutely. Good at endurance stuff.
Real life, we'd love to get into that. But anyway, it's a road racing course, if you hadn't guessed that also. Counterclockwise is the way they run. And it's a 3.93 kilometer track, so decent distance.
Yeah, good lap.
And it's used for both motorcycle and car racing.
Yeah, we saw some cool videos of motorcycle racing.
Yeah, actually there was a track day guy that did that. Okay, so there you have the build-up and all this. Now, if you want to, actually, why don't you watch the whole segment, then you can get involved. We'll tell you how to get involved at the end. So let's talk lap times here. So we decided to test all 3 cars again, not just the Falcon. Honestly, that was the first one I went after. What was yours?
Well, we had done the Falcon. I think I did the Holden first, but it was squirrely, so I don't think I was in it very long even.
And it was topping out at the start-finish line. The Holden didn't have enough gear. And let's talk about another thing really quick.
Yeah, this has got to be made
fair. This is the key. And you know what? This is all for fun. There's no prizes in here, so let's just all have some fun with this, for all of you that didn't get involved. But fixed setup, or not fixed setup, but just choose the default setup. You can tweak the steering ratio and the brake bias a little bit. But
Make it comfortable for you, but don't change the car.
Don't change the suspension. Don't change the gearing, and we'll get to that in a second. But the gearing in the Holden was too short, so the thing was topping out at the start-finish line.
The reason we're doing this also, we always evaluate Top Sim cars, and default set is one of the categories. We do not touch cars.
Yep.
And in this case, since we were getting into lap times, it did require a slight touch.
But we won't get to that yet, still. So he ran the Holden first. I ran the Falcon first, and I think I initially ran a 156-ish in the Falcon.
Yeah.
Sean then ran, and he just started running all the cars, and next thing he tells me, he's like, well, Charger.
I love
Charger's the car.
Yeah. Great balance, the Charger.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, cool. He ran a 152.740 was his Charger time. Chrysler Charger, Dodge Charger, whatever it is. So anyway, so then I decided to run some laps, got in the Charger. I ran a 52.706. I ran the 52.740. So I was right there on him. I was running another lap. in the split time showed me I was like 0.3 faster, and I spun it. So 52 is about the best we could do with that car. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to try the Falcon. I couldn't even get below a 54 in the Falcon.
Most power.
Yeah, most horsepower, but that thing is just
useless horsepower.
Yeah, that thing's a tank. So I decided to try the Holden, and instantly I realized that thing was grooving pretty good through the road course section. So as soon as I got to the front straight, also noticed the thing ran out of gear at the start finish, and I was like thinking to myself, wait a second.
This has a shot.
This thing might have a shot if we can get the top end out of it, because it seemed to have enough horsepower. Only 200-something horsepower. It weighed about 1,000 pounds less than the other two cars.
And it definitely drove that way.
Yeah, it did. I decided to change all you could do is I just changed the differential. So I figured we just changed the differential gear. I didn't touch the gears, which I don't think you can.
Right.
But I changed it to a 308 rear gear, or rear end. And I think 3 laps out of the gate, I hit a 51.9.
Yeah, that was definitely the gearing that car needed for that track. So that
we
would
talked
be a
about
fair
it.
adjustment for this competition only.
And Sean's picky when it comes to that stuff. When I told him, he's like, I don't know, dude. Come on, man. And I'm like, dude, come on. That's just a quick gear change. We can change that in our garage in an hour. And he's like, yeah, okay, you're right. So we kept it in, and that was our best lap. Sean then started turning a bunch of laps. He hit, drum roll, please.
151.231.
That's right. So Sean's best lap in the Holden Tirana,
I think, yeah.
Tirana, at Eastern Creek is a 151.231. So let's see if you guys can beat it. Post your lap time.
And I'm not going to say that I only did a handful of laps. I did a handful of laps. We weren't driving all day. We made that change, made a good run at the track, and we do know that track well. So, I mean, that's provided you know your way around Eastern Creek.
Time on the track was about noonish. We didn't make any wind adjustments or anything like that, so it's just basically a standard default time. Right now, actually, I set it so it starts getting dark. It's kind of cool. You see it in the background there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's it. You know, put your time, post in our forums. Oh, here's how you can get involved here.
Yeah.
Go to our site, InsideSimRacing.tv. Click on the Top Sim Car link. That'll take you to our Top Sim Car list. Go to the Bathhurst Legends.
Number 6.
Number 6. Click on that. That's going to open up another page. Now on that page, you're going to be able to click on an image that will take you to the actual original segment of the Bathhurst Legends car if you want to check that out. But then it's also going to it's going to have the link to the car, the Bathhurst Legends mod to download, Eastern Creek that you can download. It's going to have our lap times listed there, a link to the forum, and then whoever's got the top time after a little while, we'll post your time in there with your name. And use your real name in our forums. That'd be cool to have your real names.
Absolutely. But yeah, we'll see how many people beat us and figure out how many, but we'll get somebody up on the site.
Actually, it would be cool if we get a picture of you and have your picture on our page that you beat the top sim car, top lap time at the top sim track.
I love it.
All right, so that's going to do it for our new style of top sim cars. You know what? We didn't want to bump any more cars. We thought let's put these cars to use. So that's we're going to do this for a little bit, and
maybe something will come in and we'll put it up on the list. But for now, we're going to cool
new cars. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But for now, we're going to be rolling the last lap or the hot lap. And as we're going out, Sean's going to tell you guys how we'd like you guys to get a little bit more involved besides entering your laps.
Yeah, so not only do we have this competition right now, but we're going to keep doing this, and we want you out there to pick the car and track scenarios. So number 1, it has to be a top sim car from our list, and it needs to be an R Factor car. So that way we can get it from R Factor Central. We also need it to be an R Factor track. Now we don't have any list for tracks, so it's up to you to choose any track you like that is available at R Factor Central and submit your request in our forum. We'll have a forum thread going, and you go ahead and put your request for what car off the top sim car list and at what track, and we'll go ahead and pick something for the next time we do this.
Yeah, and remember it's got to be R Factor, and some suggestions. Mid-Ohio is a great track. Oran Park is another laser scan track, and there are a ton of other great tracks for R Factor. So get involved, and we're going to have our lap that you can download there too, the replay, so you can check it out. And hope you enjoyed it, and hope you get involved.
coming in from Top Sim Cars, and Darren's here with me.
Hello there.
We're going to rewind a little bit to last week's show where we had our triple screens on the racing rig, and
That's
we
right.
used Eyefinity technology together with an ATI video card.
Yep.
And it got the guys thinking a little bit as to if they can achieve the same thing using the free software.
SoftTH.
Which stands for...
Software triple head.
And 2 other video cards, right?
Yeah, and just some parts laying around. We looked to do it on a budget, really. Actually, none of our monitors match. We got a 275 video card and a 260. 275 is doing the rendering, and a 260 is acting like just the extra port, I guess. But yeah.
And then the free downloadable technology from
SoftTH, yep.
TH. So Sean's put together a little piece, and he's going to show all of you guys out there how to achieve triple screen monitors on a budget.
So last show, Darren showed off his new ATI Eyefinity card and his 3 monitor setup, and I swear, it was only minutes later, I was running around the studio picking up old monitors and old video cards to do something that I'd heard about but never tried myself, and that's SoftTH. SoftTH is the software answer to multiple screens. You need 2 video cards, with 1 card doing all of the work. The second card is used purely to output to the extra monitor or monitors, and therefore can be rather inexpensive. I've also seen people doing this with state-of-the-art video cards, but I wanted to try this out with some cheap parts we had around. So I had a system with an NVidia GTX 275 card from PNY, and I found a GTX 260 from Zotac laying around. Both of these I have found on eBay for under $100, with the 260 as low as $50. And for the monitors, it seems that you can use just about anything out there. I've even seen people using old CRTs in conjunction with an LCD. I had 2 completely different 22-inchers along with a 23.5-inch for the middle for mine. To get this going, I had to first install the second video card. This means that my motherboard had to have a second PCI Express slot. I have heard of people using regular PCI and AGP slots, but technically it doesn't have the bandwidth to do it well. So any SLI-ready motherboard has the dual PCI slots. Once I have 3 monitors ready to go and the dual cards in place, I went to the SoftTH site at www.kegetys.net/SoftTH and downloaded the latest version. The 1.09 beta version of SoftTH has 6 files in it: a README, a quick start, the SoftTH config file, and 3 different DLLs, D3D8, D3D9, and SoftTH_hook. The README and the quick start are for you to read, and the other 4 should be copied into the directory of the executable of the sim that you are using. So this is the part where it gets a little bit tricky. All changes to SoftTH are done through the config file that you put into the directory of the sim you're going to run. So you're going to open that up with Notepad. This is also the point that will take some trial and error when it comes to getting it right. In the case of my system, I had to keep moving settings lower in most cases to get it right and at the frame rates that I desired. I'll tell you now that I started off with iRacing and soon discovered that my frame rates were not good enough on big tracks or running with lots of cars. My settings reflect shooting for maximum frame rates and sacrificing quality in return. Each section starts with a description of what it does. So looking at the config section, you can see the first line is device ID left. For some, leaving this auto will work. In my case, I needed to set it to 2. And the next line, right ID to 1. The next 2 lines handle the resolution of the side monitors. You will enter a width and a height of your resolution, followed by the refresh rate of your monitor. For maximum frame rates, I used 800 by 600 on the side monitors. The next line is the secondary format, and you have several settings available. In my case, I went with the lowest setting of RGB16. The next line to really focus on is the border size and the side extra width. This is where we will adjust our bezel size and also adjust the stretch of our monitors to adjust the picture. Unlike the Eyefinity setup, we will have to enter things manually, and again, this will take some trial and error. For my setup, the border size of 50 and the side extra width of 0 seem to get me the best results. The next area to focus on is at the bottom, and that is the main screen resolution. It has a bunch of different resolutions in there for the auto detect function. But for me, I deleted all of the resolutions except for the one that I wanted to use. For my center monitor, I entered 1280 by 720 by 60, 60 being the refresh rate of my monitor. Next comes the in-game settings. Again, I started off with iRacing. I fired up the sim and immediately went to the graphics settings. In the window resolution tab, you will now have a setting for my new window size of 3940 by 720 by 32. That is the total of the side monitors, plus the middle monitor, plus bezel, plus stretch from the numbers I fed into the config file. If your numbers are different, then so will be your overall screen size. Next up is change the number of screens to 3 and click on render each screen separately. On the right side, you will then enter the monitor width, including the bezel and without it, the viewing distance from your head to the screens, and the angle that you have your screen set to. iRacing will then compute the preferred field of view, and at that point you can adjust it on your own. Beyond that, you will see that I have all of my settings at nearly the lowest possible. For me, having my computer run at no less than 100 frames at any time is what I shoot for. For rFactor and Race 07, I then opened the config program. I selected my new resolution and I was off and running. Once in game, I adjusted my seat position and my field of view for my preferences. In Live for Speed, I copied the same 4 files into the root directory for Live for Speed and then fired up the sim. Going to the Options tab, start with the View section. Look for multiple screen layout and add a left and right monitor. Then go to the Screen tab and select your new resolution at the bottom. At this point, my LFS freaked out a little bit. All I had to do was kill the program, restart it, and everything was working just great. All I had to do was adjust my seat and my field of view, and I was off and running. So now I have my triple screen setup, and I did it with a bunch of used stuff. Sure, my monitors don't match. Sure, my performance isn't as good as the Eyefinities, but I am reaping the advantages of triple screens. One thing left out of the Eyefinity review is that triples is so much different than a gigantic monitor. No matter what size a conventional monitor I get, I am still limited to single screen resolution. The added side vision, the depth of seeing the track and the corners up ahead, the competition on your sides, it cannot be compared to any other way of racing. Now, if I didn't have a pile of spare parts and I was starting from scratch, then I'm not seeing the performance that I would want. I could buy a modern card that could do all of the work. Not only better frames, but it taxes the system less. 2 cards takes twice the power to run, and in fact, I killed the power supply in my system doing this. In its defense, it was a tired old power supply with clogged airflow, but the point remains, you must power both cards. If you go to our forums at InsideSimRacing.tv, I will start a thread there about SoftTH. I'll put my settings there, and if you tried it yourself and have better results, please let us all know. So my recommendation to you all out there when it comes to triple screens, and I'm going to quote Ferris Bueller on this one, if you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up. So I hope this helps you with SoftTH.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Time for the top story of the day, which is sponsored by RaceSimCentral.com.
Home of sim racing news and forums since the year 2000.
And speaking of sim racing news, we got this GTO Mega Racing Rig back here, which you blogged about.
I did, as a matter of fact.
At Race Sim Central, and we've talked about it here on the show. We've actually teased it a little bit.
Yeah, we got a little crap for not showing it sooner because we teased it so much.
But it is here, and it's a very nice rig. It's a company based out of Scotland.
That's right.
And they have 2 price points for the rig. One is for $385 US and the other for $432.
Yeah, $385 gets you the base model, which comes with the seat, speaker mounts, obviously your steering wheel mount, and the monitor stand. And then add the additional and you get the G25 or G27 shifter mount and the keyboard swivel mount.
Swivel keyboard mount.
That's right.
Yep, and this rig is kind of similar to something we've had on the show before.
That's right, the Obutto, which is really similar, like a metal tubing type rig. Same price point, so...
You get a lot of bang for your buck with this rig.
You do, and Obutto's going to have some serious competition with this rig.
Well, Sean and Darren put it on our rev scale, which is our basic 1 to 10 scale, and they scored the GTO Mega Racing Rig. here is their piece. Let's see what they scored it.
All right, well, here we are with the GT Omega racing rig. Does this thing have a name? Just the racing simulator.
Yeah, it's my new cockpit.
And I've been wondering is it GTO, Mega Racing, or GTO Mega?
What is it about these all-in-one ones that there's always a little discrepancy in how you say the O part of the word?
That's a good point. It's GT Omega Racing Simulator, if you were curious. I know I was. So anyway, Daring Angie, Sean Cole. And this is a pretty cool rig, we'll just start by saying. This is like one of the all-in-one jobbers.
Love it.
And very similar to the Obuto that we've mentioned, the tube frame chassis deal.
So many similarities between the two. Some people could even confuse them for a blink of an eye only, but into thinking that maybe it was a modern version of one or the other.
Yeah, very similar but very different too.
Yes.
A little bit on the dimensions, and this is in centimeters, so get your little converters out and you guys can figure it out. 52 centimeters wide. The height is 112 centimeters, and then it's 159 centimeters in length. Total weight, 52 kilograms, comes in 2 boxes. One comes basically with the seat, and one comes with everything else, all the
Metal.
piping, tubing, knobs. So let's see, what else? Compatible with, originally this thing was built for the G25, G27 platform. And as you can see, we have the Fanatic. We drilled it out ourselves, but they actually drill these for you now. I'd like to thank Leo at GT Omega for sending us this rig. And also, I've been talking to him a lot since he sent it to us and been giving him some suggestions on improvements. And he's been making them as I've been giving them to him. So one of them was to drill out his wheel decks to support Fanatics. He has done that. Also compatible with Logitech sound systems. Comes with speaker mounts. It comes with this deck that you could mount speakers to if you wanted to, or just have them sitting on there. Also comes with a monitor stand, Visa mountable stand, and we have 2 pieces of man, we are the 80/20 extrusion tubing fiends. We love this stuff. They should be a
sponsor of the show.
They should be.
80/20 show.
So anyway, use this to mount the monitor to it because we already had this monitor mounted to 80/20, so we just said, hey, you know what? Let's have the monitor come a little bit closer.
Yep, since it was a little smaller.
Yep, which all comes together. That all mounts all together. The monitor stand comes with it. Keyboard tray, shifter stand are both sold separately for additional. And that's about it for the specs, wouldn't you say, Sean?
Yeah,
it is. A pleather seat.
Pleather.
This is not leather, but it's a faux leather. It's nice material. It's nicely stretched, I would say.
Yeah, it's actually got a really nice quality to it. Good stitching. The panels fit well. I mean, it's a good seat.
Yeah, it is. Very similar seat. A lot of the rigs we've had, even the first rig, the Virtual Roadster, the Obuto, my seat that I got from my old wood rig, all have this exact seat.
It's like some
one form.
Generic shell. It's like the VCR thing. They're all the same, but they all
probably pumped out of China like crazy. So anyway, all right, so there you have the gist of the rig. Talk about cost really quick. This thing's going for just the base rig, no keyboard tray, no shifter stand, 246 pounds, or almost 247 pounds. With tax and shipping, it's going to be a little bit more, which anywhere in Europe is fine. The shipping actually to the UK is like 17 pounds, and then even to the outreaches of Europe, it's 42, 50 pounds. It's not shipped to Germany though.
And that's something that's very interesting. Like, we've been doing a lot of rigs lately, and depending on their origin or where they're being distributed from will drastically affect the cost, which drastically affects our opinion of certain rigs. Yep. When you're looking at wheels or other smaller devices, shipping isn't such a big concern, but you get into the, major pounds or big boxes, and it's a big deal.
Speaking of pounds, 131 British pounds to get it shipped here to the U.S. Via DHL, and that's not even the cheapest. 254, I think, or 46, 200 plus British pounds to New Zealand. So pretty expensive to ship unless you're in the European region.
Yeah.
So it's pretty affordable there. Getting it outside of that region, it's definitely putting it into another area. We looked into the Obuto, and it's like under $400 shipped to your door here in the U.S. Now, I'm imagining Leo's going to try to get some U.S. distributors, and that would drastically lower the cost.
And that would drastically affect my advising of this rig in that region.
All right, well, we've pretty much told you everything there is to know about the GT Omega Racing Simulator.
The stats, at least.
The stats, yeah. Why don't we tell them a little bit about, or we'll go to the pros and cons.
All right. I'll tell you one of my favorite things about this rig, and that is the reclining chair. And even though I don't often change my chair, I mean, I know what seat position I like, during a race, a long race especially, I might change it. Or if I have a friend come over, I'm going to want them to be able to get as comfortable as they can.
Yep. And I'll add to the seat, me being 6'4", having that adjustability does matter. So I definitely think that's a major pro.
Yeah. The other thing is, with the reclining, it's also a very comfortable driving position. I like the distance in terms of height between the seat, pedals, and wheel overall. And it's a racy position, but it's not too laid back that I'm uncomfortable. Another thing that I like about it is the footprint. It is a full-size rig, so it takes up space, obviously.
Yeah, it's nice and narrow.
Yeah, it's narrow. If you put it up against a wall, it's not sticking all the way out into your room, and that's including accommodating the shifter.
Yep.
So the footprint I like. It's fully complete. I mean, this is everything you need. You're not going to need to get some other table for your keyboard. You're not going to need a shifter mount. It's everything, including the monitor stand. So, I mean, it's really an all-in-one turnkey. I mean, you need a computer and a wheel, obviously.
And then that goes to cost, to price.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're in Europe, if you're in Europe, it's got a great cost for an all-in-one unit. Outside Europe, then you're getting into the pricey range just because of that extra shipping.
Yeah, getting into the premium rigs. The other thing for me is I love the styling. It's very racy looking. It's absolutely a driving apparatus. So when your friends come over, everyone's going to think it's cool and want to know what it is and get in it.
Got some wow factor.
Definitely. And that's cool. You're paying for it. It should look cool. The other is it's sturdy. This distance here looks like it wouldn't be. Like there would be a lot of movement.
Yeah, this was very deceiving. In our forums, people were talking about this rig and thought that it was going to have a lot of wobble. And I thought it was when I first got it. But based on the design, the way he's wrapped the tubes and butted them up next to each other down on the lower end, like near the footwell, it really creates a nice sturdy platform.
Yeah, it does. And it's hard to mount a monitor like this without wiggle. You do get a little bit, but it's not anything that's going to distract from you.
By the way, they've got shots of at their site, 42-inch monitor mounted to this thing. I mean, I thought that was a little crazy. I wouldn't mount one too. But you know what? I'll tell you what, this thing's sturdy enough. I know it would hold it. I mean, it's not going to collapse. These tubes aren't going to just fold over on you. I mean, that would be quite a heavy, I don't know if I'd want a $500 plus LCD, mounted to this thing. But you know what? It would hold it.
It would definitely hold it. We only have a 22 on there. It is a little far away. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself there a little bit.
Yep.
And then the last thing is, especially if you're in the UK or near the UK, it's a great price for all of this stuff, all this rig for that much money. Again, like you said, in the shipping costs, you get to America or New Zealand, and I probably wouldn't say it's a great price.
Yep. A few more pros for you. Speaker mount, and it's great for the Logitech speaker system. You got, this is like, as far as the all-in-one goes, and in this narrow footprint, you can fit a lot of stuff into this little narrow footprint.
And some extras.
Yep. Butt kicker gamer, easily mountable too because it's got the tubing. So there's lots of places you can find a mount, especially up the back speaker tubes would be probably the best place. Mm-hmm. The shifter placement like that, and then Fanatic pedals, great footprint. Minus the tilt. So those were our pros.
And pre-drilled for the Logitech, so that's nice.
Yeah. All right, next let's go to the cons, which there's honestly not that many.
I have a few little nitpicky ones. There's nothing that really glares out at me.
Yeah.
But a few little ones that just keep it from being, really a better rig.
And let's start with easily scratchable. It's got a nice finish. It's not a high gloss, and it's not a super dull or like a primer, but it's like kind of in between.
Yeah.
But it's easily scratched. Got scratched up in shipping a little bit.
Yeah, I can see a few scratches here and there on it.
Yep. Wheel deck is too low for tall people like myself. Actually, even Sean didn't like the lower height.
Yeah.
And not very adjustable, but since we've written this, it's been updated. Actually, just sent it to me today. With the updated, we got some images of the updated wheel deck that raises it 3 inches, so that kind of takes that con away.
Yeah. Another con we had was the wheel.
Tilting.
Is that cured in that new mount? Did
I
you
don't know.
mention
That's
that?
a good question, but you know what? He's got like stilts coming off of it, so I guess you could mount two lower than the front two lower. But then again, I don't know if it's gonna work like that. But the pedal adjustment with a G25, there's little to no movement. So I mean, once they're in place, that's pretty much it. Except for side to side, you can move them. This is kind of a pro and a con. The helicopter, the keyboard tray is good to have because it gives you the whole all-in-one package. But man, that thing's like a helicopter blade. That thing will spin forever.
It is, and normally when a keyboard, I like to have a little more angle so I can kind of see the face. It's laying down away from you. It'll do, and it's better than putting your keyboard and mouse on the floor, so I'd still recommend it, but it could definitely be a better design there. And
the last couple things, the seat being this pleather, or leather, it's not leather, we call it pleather, which fake leather. It's going to be hot for long races. Not going to breathe, so you're going to sweat in the longer races. One of the other cons is that there's some little small design flaws, like where this tray mounts right here, it doesn't line up properly. It lines up fine back here, and it was sturdy enough to where I had a expensive laptop sitting on it, and we were racing with it, and I didn't have any problems with it.
Right.
And then just some other small, just nitpicky little design flaws. Not a big deal. I mean, not worth, for the price you get what you pay for. But I mean, it's a nice.
And I'd say they're comparable to the same sort of flaws we saw in like the Obado. And it's just like some of the holes aren't perfectly lined up. In this case, a couple more drill holes. We'd have that pinched in just fine. But yeah, it is a little on the low end in that department.
Yeah, and then the cost of shipping outside of Europe is a little too much. So, I mean, those are the cons.
The other thing is there is a lot of rake in the pedals. I'd like to see them either adjustable or maybe a little flattened out if they're going to be permanently fixed like they are.
So that's going to do it. Rev scale?
I have to give this one 2 numbers. If you're in America or somewhere where it's going to cost an astronomical amount of money to get it to you, I think it's still worth an 8 because
actually, you think about this. New Zealand, the cost of shipping is the identical cost of the rig, so you're basically paying double to get it shipped to New Zealand.
Yeah, when you're paying that much for something you don't need in terms of, well, you need the shipping, but I mean, it's not something you put in your house.
But you get to keep.
Yeah.
Well, you get to keep the rig, but...
if you're in Europe or anywhere in nearby where shipping is reasonable, this is a 9 easily. The flaws are so small. It's such a complete rig. It's a good driving position. Anything that I found that I didn't like about it was going to be easy to fix or solve with just a little bit of drilling or shimming or
yeah, and I'd say just a few little, I'd like to say the shifter is reversible. You can put it on either side. There's holes drilled so for left-handed shift or right-handed shift. And I'm right there with Sean. I'll score it identically. It's a really good, affordable rig if you're in Europe. Again, it kicks into the higher end stuff if you're going into the U.S. and beyond. But it's a good design. A few fixes like he's doing, and it gets up into the 9-10 range. Get it worldwide distribution, and it's a 10 across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, with these few flaws that we're talking about.
I agree completely.
So that's going to do it. GT Omega Racing Simulator. You can get them at gtomegaracing.com. Who are we going to tell them? Send them?
You got to tell them Inside Sim Racing told you to go check them out.
That's right. Tell them we sent you. And Leo, thanks again for sending us this rig. We really appreciate it. And there you have it. If you've been looking into getting one, hopefully we've told you everything you wanted to know. If not, go to our forums. We've got a section, GT Omega Racing Rig, and we'll discuss it there with you if you have any more questions, comments, whatever.
Hopefully we can try any scenario for you.
See you guys later.
So there you have it, the GT Omega Racing Rig. Hope you guys enjoyed that piece.
I enjoyed running in it. I'd like to thank Leo for sending us the rig. We've had it here for at least a month now.
We've been enjoying the rig in the meantime.
Yep, plenty of time to test it, and it's definitely a cool rig. What did you think of it?
You know what, I really like the rig a lot, and like you mentioned earlier, it has a fantastic price point. We've had some seats and some wheel stands in here that are more than the total of this whole rig.
Right.
It doesn't take up too much space, so it's very compact, and I like the colors.
And like I mentioned, man, this thing's going to give Obado a run. I mean, it's a really similar rig to the Obado, and he's definitely got some competition now.
So we'll see what happens. And I definitely agree with the scoring that you guys gave it on the rev scale.
Well, thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap up this episode of Inside Sim Racing. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not yet.
Check out our forums at our site,
Yep,
InsideSimRacing.tv.
Keep all your comments coming on YouTube and your comments on our forum at our website. And we have the Sim Mart, where you can purchase some of the items you see here on the show.
That's right.
And I guess that's going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Checker flag is out, and so are we. Promotional consideration provided by GamePod, the choice of champions. And get your background images at wall-graphics.com.